You all know the story. Hertz officially files for bankruptcy on May 22nd, 2020, and as anyone could have guessed, their stock price crashes to 56 cents per share. But then Hertz soars over 405% since recent lows, leaving rational investors perplexed and Robinhooders saying, "Suck it, boomers." In this video, we're talking about how if you have invested in Hertz, you could be getting played. What does Chapter 11 bankruptcy even mean, and why is Hertz issuing new shares? All that coming up next. Let's do it. What's going on, everybody? My name is Matthew. Welcome back to the channel, and today we are talking all things Hertz. Nope, it's the wrong picture. It's the other. There we go. Let's just get right into it. Hertz received a judge's approval to offer up to $1 billion in new shares. Give me the format. First, why has Hertz gone up so much? Second, what does bankruptcy mean for Hertz? Are stockholders safe? Third, why is Hertz offering new shares? And honestly, why is it pretty genius? And finally, fourth, what could this mean for anyone who owns Hertz stock? Let's get right into it with first, why has Hertz stock gone up so much? Let's keep this quick. There are two main types of investors in the market. There are the professional investors like the banks and funds, and then there are retail investors, and that's anyone who's not a professional like you and me. Data shows that the majority of people who are buying very risky stocks like Hertz are retail investors, and most of those retail investors are from none other than
Robinhood, baby.
Let's draw a quick comparison here. One of the most famously successful investors in the world, no, not Papa Buffett, Carl Icahn sold his almost 40% stake in Hertz once he heard they were filing for bankruptcy. This guy is no joke. You could look at his portfolio and past career and say, "That was legitness." He's no retail investor. But retail investors seem to have used scanners to find stocks down more than 50% and found a name that they recognized, Hertz. Or even better, they looked at the top daily gainers list on Robinhood and saw a name they recognized, Hertz. Many of them didn't do their research and they bought in anyway, but the thing is, they did it all together. And look at the stock price now. Look at them sticking it to the big guys on Wall Street. And please don't get mad at me, this is mainly satirical and I realize this is a generalization, but I'm fairly confident that this is fairly accurate. So in my humble opinion, that is why Hertz has been flying so high lately. A large, overwhelming amount of retail investors have been buying in while the big guys sit on the sidelines. Again, suck it, boomers. So I'm going to try and do my part in part 2 by explaining what bankruptcy even means for Hertz. Hertz filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy on May 22nd. Chapter 11 is a specific type of bankruptcy where the company, in this case Hertz, remains open and operating as it tries to restructure its debt. In other words, Chapter 11 does not mean that this company is done for good. Instead, it gives this company some more time to try and create a plan to pay back the debt that it owes. And if it can successfully do that, it may see a recovery. This is part of the reason why people are still piling into Hertz. They're basically betting that Hertz is going to be able to make this recovery. But more on that later. United Airlines, for example, has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy before, and it still stands today. However, as a shareholder, as someone who owns Hertz stock, there's one thing you must know about Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And that is that Hertz has an obligation to pay back their lenders first, not their shareholders. Imagine this. Hertz has $19 billion in debt. Well, they actually do, so you don't really have to imagine that part. Say it looks like they are going to go under for good, but they still have some cash and assets that they can use to pay back the people they owe money to. Now imagine there's a line of people and Hertz is standing right here. Hertz will use all its cash and assets it has left to pay back whoever they owe money to in this line. But all the lenders who lent money to Hertz are in the very, very front. And all the people who own Hertz stock, meaning you, are in the very back. So if Hertz runs out of money by the time you get to the front of the line, well, too bad. Hertz just does this hand gesture thing, whatever it's called, and then your stocks are pretty much worthless. This, in my opinion, is the main reason why I personally would not invest in Hertz stock right now. Because the odds of them having enough money to pay back everyone before they pay back me for my Hertz stock is historically very low when it comes to Chapter 11 bankruptcies. But like I said, companies have come back from Chapter 11 bankruptcies, and that is why this is a huge speculation stock. And that's the perfect segue into part 3, why is Hertz offering new shares? To be quite honest, this is a genius move by Hertz to try and stay alive. Let's take a couple steps back. The reason why companies go public or have an IPO is because they want to raise money by offering ownership in the company. When you buy a share of Apple, you actually have partial ownership of Apple. It's just a very, very small amount. but it's there. So by selling stock, or technically ownership in a company, that is how a business can generate capital. That's the main point I'm trying to get across here. And if there's one thing that Hertz needs right now, it's for you guys to smash that like button. But in all seriousness, these videos do take a long time to research, record, and edit, so I'd really appreciate it if you just tap that like button. Thank you so much. But really, if there's one thing that Hertz needs right now, it's capital, cash, money, whatever you want to call it. So, Hertz has ingeniously decided to take advantage of the fact that their stock is so hot right now and sell more shares to the public. Because for some reason, people can't get enough of Hertz stock. And if you want my 2 cents, I think people are buying into Hertz stock not because of the business behind it, but because of the literal price movement of the ticker symbol HTZ. But to get back to this point, Hertz is basically crowdfunding $1 billion worth of capital from the stock market. They then hopefully plan to use that $1 billion to pay off some of their debt. And you might ask, well,
Matt, why doesn't every company just do this when they're going bankrupt? It's such an easy way to get more money.
Well, usually people aren't itching to buy more stock of a company that has filed for bankruptcy. Not only is this a very smart way to generate some quick cash from Hertz, but it also could be the second win that they need to try and make it out of bankruptcy. So now finally, fourth, what could this mean for someone who owns Hertz? Well, Hertz is issuing millions of new shares, which is going to create a situation called dilution. Really quickly, just imagine a company has 10 shares total. That's it, 10. Each share represents 10% of the company, and you own one. You own 10%. But then they issue 10 more shares. Now there are 20 shares total, and the original share that you had is now only worth 5% of the company. That is dilution. And dilution can often reduce the value of an individual investment. However, it's important to note that dilution does not always mean the stock price will go down. The other thing that stockholders of Hertz should know is that it is very likely your shares will eventually become worthless. In fact, Hertz even agreed to warn potential buyers that the common stock could ultimately be worthless. To me, this is a huge red flag, not only for obvious reasons, but in my eyes, it says Hertz is basically admitting that, yeah, we're just going to take your $1 billion from these new shares that are probably going to be worthless, but that gives us another $1 billion to pay off debt, another $1 billion we didn't have to work for, and then we're just going to, kind of back into the darkness, and then you're going to be left with nothing. But again, thank you for your $1 billion. However, I do want to always try and address both sides of an argument for a stock, so I will say that this move to issue $1 billion worth of shares could actually give Hertz the oxygen that it needs to try and make it out of bankruptcy. This infusion of $1 billion in capital could potentially help Hertz stay alive just a little bit longer during this pandemic and long enough to see business come back. And if business comes back very rapidly, we could perhaps, keyword perhaps, see Hertz make a recovery. So the actual investors in Hertz, the people who are actually buying the company and not just buying the ticker symbol that goes up and down a lot, this is what I believe those people are betting on, a full recovery from bankruptcy. If you found any value in this video at all, and I hope you did, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on those notifications. And wait, newsflash, I'm going to be launching a Patreon very soon where I intend to have benefits like notifications of when I buy or sell a stock, notifications of when I add a new stock to my watch list or make a new analysis, notifications of exclusive content, and the list goes on and on. So in the comments, because I value your guys' opinion very much, please let me know what other benefits you would like to see in this Patreon. Additionally, I'm going to start off with a very limited amount of spots to become patrons, and this is the group of people I'm going to be asking for feedback along the way. And by that I mean, if you're one of the patrons that's able to get in before there's a limit or before it's closed off, you are going to be the one who is really shaping the direction of this Patreon. I intend to work very closely with all of my first patrons to try and figure out not only how we can make the Patreon better, but how we can make this channel and community better. So if you want your input to be shown in this channel, then make sure you get the Patreon when it first drops. And before we get into the quote of the day, make sure to follow me on Instagram, link in bio, where I post daily updates on my portfolio, what I think is going on in the market, and where I answer every single DM. So as always, we'll end with the quote of the day. Just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it isn't so. That's from Lemony Snicket. I thought it applied very well to today's video because just because you don't understand what Chapter 11 bankruptcy is, just because you don't understand what issuing new shares is, just because you don't understand what dilution is, it does not mean that it is not a fundamental issue for Hertz right now. Lastly, as they have been in the last few videos, if you would like to support the BLM movement or the protesters, links in the description below for where you can go and donate. Thank you guys so much for watching to this point in the video. You are the real MVPs, and I really mean it. Don't forget your peace and thank yous.